Hello, this is Matt from tracyandmatt.co.uk and from unboxings.com. Here I have the Archos 8 home tablet. I'm going to do a quick unboxing video for you and then we're going to go away and do our full review. We thought we'd see what's in the box and what the device has to offer. This is a brand new one, completely sealed, so this is our first look. So we'll try to open up. There's a couple of stickers on the bottom just holding things closed. And we're inside. Right, okay, so quite well packed inside with this foam. The first thing we have here appears to be the charger. Okay, it's a pretty standard looking charger. There is another part to go with it. Here, the UK 3-pin, well packed. Okay. And that pops on there somehow, that way round. There we go. So that's our charger, and it has a standard sort of bullet style connector on the other end, so we'll need that shortly. Then we have a cable, a USB cable, so it's a standard USB to a mini USB connector on the other end. And there's a couple of other plugs here. One's a European style 2-pin plug and the other one's an American style 2-pin plug for actually working with that adapter. The tablet itself there, which we'll come back to in just a second. Let's finally look at what else we have. So we have a leaflet which relates to international warranty, what to do if you need help, legal and safety notices, and then the manual getting started guide there relating to how to connect it up, what it all does, and using the interface. So just move all the packaging to one side and look at the tablet. It's quite well sealed. So this tablet itself, as you can see, it kind of looks a bit like a photo frame. To all intents and purposes, that's kind of what they're positioning this device as, a home tablet. It has an 8-inch display on the front, which is 800 by 600 pixels, is touch sensitive. On the back, we have this stand, allowing us to stand it up like so. And the idea of it is that you can use it for playing movies. Could be a photo frame. You could have it handheld to use the internet, or you can have it in your kitchen to review recipes, all sorts of things like that. There's a variety of things that it sort of aimed to do. On the back, there's that also pulls off, and there's a spike. Not sure that's supposed to happen, but that's just come off in my hand, so I don't know if it's intended to do that, but it has done nevertheless. Also on the back, looks like this area here is where we could put a stylus. There isn't a stylus supplied, but in actual fact it's not for a stylus. It is actually to hold the power cable captive. So the power cable plugs in there like so, which is actually a bit of a fiddle, and then that holds the power cable captive there to keep it neat and tidy. So that's what the back is all about. There's also a little reset button. I don't think there's really an awful lot else on the back. There's a power button at the top there, and a couple of USB connectors. So one of them is the USB for sync and charge, and the other one is for plugging in external USB devices like memory keys and stuff like that. So it's a USB host. There's also an SD card socket, a full-size SD card supporting SDHC memory cards up to 16 gig, according to spec that I've actually found from the Archos website. It does take up to 16 gigs, so that's pretty cool. So let's see if we can just power up. And I wonder if there's any power in it at all. So when we eventually get to power up, we're presented with a pretty familiar splash screen, which I'll make a little bit easier to see if I peel the screen protector off. And wait for that to power up. Incidentally, it's worth mentioning, I've had it on charge for quite a while before I could get it to power up at all. And one thing I have noticed is this top corner here gets really very, well, not just warm, but actually hot. That's where the power plug's in there, so it must be presumably where there's some sort of inverter or whatever to do with the power supply. But that is actually to the point of being uncomfortable to hold. It's that hot. So I don't know if that's, I guess that's sort of normal operation, but it is seriously warm. So first time you power up does take a while, and it wants us to do a screen calibration, which we'll do. Seems kind of random where it's asking me to touch. There we go, finishing calibration. Ask me if I've read the notices. Of course I have. About setting up. And that's it. We're presented with what is, you know, essentially a fairly standard looking Android style home screen. The other tablets have a very similar Android style home screen, such as the Dell Streak had a very similar sort of home screen, and even the Econ M001 that we looked at a while ago had a fairly similar home screen. We've got the Google search at the top, and then obviously a couple of icons down here. We can add icons if we want to by adding shortcuts, widgets, folders and wallpapers. And in terms of widgets, we've got a few things on here that we can add, but we won't bother to do that just at the moment. In the sidebar, we've got our full apps here, so we've got a clock. AppsLib is effectively the Archos version of the Android library, or Android market rather. It has a sort of a bit more of a limited library of applications. They're not a full Android, library. They sort of restrict some of the things that you can do. You won't find Google Maps in there, for example. You've got a video player, you've got global time, you've got cine show time, a few other bits and pieces like email. If we just close that off, because we don't have any other physical buttons on or around the display, and it is a tablet, you have controls in the corner on the toolbar. So you have the button here, brings up the main menu at the bottom, and then effectively the button next to it is a back button, and then you have your volume control, turn your volume up and down, and obviously here also has your battery charging status, so that's pretty good. If I push the button there, I go into settings, I can go to the wireless controls. Oops. Wi-Fi is on, so we go into Wi-Fi settings. So then we can connect to a Wi-Fi network. So we've got this one here. Just type in the key. Actually, while I'm just typing in the key, you can actually see the Android keyboard. It's fairly standard QWERTY, but it's quite large, so you can get to it quite easily. There we go. It's just obtaining an address, and we're connected. So we go back home, and we can look at the browser. Initially wants to go to google.com. Obviously I'm connecting over Wi-Fi using broadband connection, so it should be quite fast. And if we push the menu there, we can go to go, brings up the address bar, and we'll go to www. There you go. Let's see how quickly our site loads. Just thinking about it. I've noticed that the reception here for the Wi-Fi doesn't seem particularly good, despite the fact that I'm probably within about 12 feet of my Wi-Fi point. Bit of a shame. And I've noticed that tablets seem to be quite poor in general when it comes to Wi-Fi. They seem worse than mobile phones for some reason. So it is loading the page, and we can scroll around. We can obviously zoom out. Button in the corner here also kind of sets it to full screen, and also when we're zooming it will actually tell me what the zoom level is. The page is loading. It's okay, it's certainly legible on the 800 by 600 display, easily readable, but it's taken a while to load and render. It seems to be partly to do, I would think, with the Wi-Fi signal. It doesn't seem to be very good, and it seems to be just really quite slow. But never mind, we'll come back out of there and see what else we have in here. Obviously I could go ahead and set up email if I wanted to, and send a Showtime. You have a calculator, your web browser and your audio player. Just have a look in the audio player. And we do have a couple of tracks on here that we can listen to that are kind of pre-installed. And we have a couple of speakers on the back of the bottom, one on each side. It's not bad. It's quite loud actually. I could make it even louder. And the sound from it is quite good. We'll get back home from there. Now, one thing that we are perhaps missing that's fairly obvious from the display here is YouTube. There's no YouTube client installed. I'm not sure if we can see one of those in AppsLib. It's asking me to update the update of datas. That's interesting. So I can't get to AppsLib unless I actually do the update, apparently. So we'll come back and look at that later on. We've got music, photo frame and photo viewer. Let's see if we've got any photos on here as samples. Look. Yep, so we've got some sample images on here. And tap on one, see it full screen. And the display's pretty good. I can swipe to go through them. And as a photo frame, it performs, you know, kind of okay. And to get out, we'll just hit home. So I'm not really sure what I personally would use this Archos home tablet for. It's kind of like a multimedia picture frame. I guess it's a kind of a picture frame that you could pick up and interact with, download more photos, get your email and browse the web on. Can't really see myself using it as a replacement for any sort of books, or in some example images that I've seen on the Archos website, using it in a kitchen with recipes and that sort of thing. I think personally I'd be using my iPad in place of that. Effectively the size of this is roughly the same sort of size as the iPad, except for the screen. The screen's a lot smaller in the middle of the device, whereas the actual physical sort of size of it is fairly similar to that of the iPad. I guess it's not really designed sort of for portability in mind, and you know, use away from the home I guess is not what it's intended for. But it just seems that it's sort of large and hefty, but with a small display. Can't really understand that. I mean, it's perhaps nice as a photo frame, but not when you're actually interacting with the device. An 8-inch display on a device that's about 12 inches. It seems a little bit bizarre. Anyway, this in terms of specification, this model has 4 gig of internal memory, and you can obviously put in additional memory using the SDHC memory card socket on the top. Full-size memory cards, by the way, not micro. This has a 600 MHz processor to keep things going along quite quickly. Capable of HD video playback at 720p. Bearing in mind it is only an 800 by 600 display, but it is capable of playing back your HD footage if you so choose to. Does play MP3s and various other audio formats, and obviously will sync up with a PC to get all your media onto it, so that's pretty good. Obviously we've seen some of the internet access and some of the other features. It does also have the email client, and you can use it as an email device. Again, how useful that is, I guess, if you just want to have it as a home thing that you can just browse through, or have sitting on the side and it just notifies you of any important emails that comes through. I guess useful from that point of view. So that's a very quick look at the Archos 8 home tablet. We'll have a full review for you over the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, if you want to follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/TracyandMatt, and I have some more videos and reviews on tracyandmatt.co.uk very soon. But for now, thanks for watching.
Bitdefender is dedicated to protecting people's digital lives, so working with unboxings.com to help preview and review the latest technology is a perfect fit.